The war ends, and a surprise awaits. The air was heavy with smoke and dust. Captain Joren lay on the cold metal floor of the wrecked outpost, his armor cracked, his body bruised. The war on planet Virexa had finally ended. Or so he thought. His last memory was the explosion that shook the sky. His ship had been hit during the final retreat. He didn't know how long he'd been unconscious. His eyelids opened slowly. The lights above flickered. The ceiling was broken in parts, revealing the gray sky outside. Machines sparked and buzzed in the corners. He tried to move, but pain shot through his chest. "Don't move too much," a soft voice said. Joren turned, his head, and froze. A young alien woman knelt beside him. She looked completely different from any alien he had seen during the war. Her skin was silver blue, almost glowing. Her long white hair flowed down her back like silk. Glowing teal eyes stared at him with calm and curiosity. But it wasn't just her beauty that shocked him. It was the chains around her wrists. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice dry. "I am your reward," she said softly. "My what?" "Your people. They won the war. I was given to you. As a gift." Joren sat up quickly, ignoring the pain. "What do you mean given to me by who?" "By the Virexian Council. They said I must serve the one who survived the final battle." Joren's mind raced. This had to be a mistake. He was a soldier, not a slave owner. "I didn't ask for this. I don't want a slave." She lowered her eyes. "You don't have to want me. I belong to you now." Her words were quiet, but filled with something else. Fear. He noticed now how thin she was, how her arms shook slightly as she held them together. She didn't look like a warrior. She looked like someone who had been through something terrible. "What's your name?" he asked gently. "Cathara." "Cathara. I'm Captain Joren. And listen to me. I'm not your master. You don't have to be afraid." She looked at him for a long moment, her eyes searching his face for any sign of cruelty. When she didn't find any, she nodded slightly. Joren slowly stood up, helping himself against a metal table. His body ached, but he forced himself to focus. He looked around the room. It was some kind of supply bunker, probably used by both sides during the war. Strange how quiet everything was now. No gunfire, no shouting, no engines in the sky. Just silence. "How did you get here?" he asked her. "They brought me in after the battle. They said you would wake soon, and that I should be here to greet you, like I'm some kind of king," Joren muttered. He hated this. He didn't fight to take people. He fought to end slavery, cruelty, and war. He reached down and gently touched the metal cuffs on her wrists. "Can I take these off?" "You can. They will fall if you press the red mark." He saw a small glowing red symbol on the side of the cuffs. When he touched it, they clicked and dropped to the floor. She rubbed her wrists but didn't try to run. "You're free now," he said. "Am I?" She whispered. Joren looked at her closely. Something wasn't right. She was too calm for a slave, too composed, and her eyes, they held secrets. "Cathara, are you hiding something?" She said nothing, just stood up and walked toward the broken wall, staring out at the sky. The clouds were turning orange as the sun set over the silent battlefield. "You should rest," she said. "They'll come for us soon." "Who will?" Again, no answer. Joren sat down and stared at her back. There were many questions in his mind now. Why had they really given her to him? Who was she before the chains? And why did she seem more afraid of her own people than of him? As the last light of the day faded, Joren felt something deep in his gut. This was not the end of the war. This was just the beginning of something far more dangerous. She won't speak the truth. The night was colder than usual on planet Virexa. Winds moved through the broken walls of the outpost, making low whistling sounds. Captain Joren sat near a small fire made from scraps of old crates. Beside him sat Cathara, the the silver-skinned alien girl who had been given to him as a reward. But Joran knew something was wrong. She hadn't said much since he freed her from the chains. She sat still, silent, eyes glowing in the firelight. Not afraid, not comfortable, just watching. "You haven't eaten," Joran said, handing her a small packet of dried rations. She shook her head. "I'm not hungry." "You haven't said much either." She looked at him. "What should I say?" "Maybe the truth." There was a pause. Her lips parted for a second, but no words came. Then she turned her face back to the fire. Joran leaned back against a steel beam, staring at the stars above through the broken ceiling. In his years of war, he had seen many prisoners, many victims, many liars. Cathara didn't feel like any of them. She didn't act like a slave. She wasn't nervous. She wasn't broken. She was hiding something. But what? Suddenly, he heard her whisper. At first, he thought she was talking to him, but when he looked, her eyes were closed. Her lips moved fast in a strange language. Virexen, no doubt. A soft glowing mist came from her mouth with each word, as if she was casting a spell or sending a message. Joran slowly reached into his pack and took out a translator device, military tech that could decode over 50 alien languages. He pressed the record button, kept it low, and aimed it at her. The whispering stopped. Cathara opened her eyes slowly. "You heard that?" she asked without turning her head. "I did," Joran replied, not pretending. "Then you know now. I'm not just a gift. I knew that the moment you called yourself one." She stood up. Her hair moved like soft light in the wind. She walked toward a broken pillar and leaned against it. "Do you think I want to be here? With you?" Joran was calm. "I don't know, but I think you're not telling me who you really are, and that's dangerous for both of us." She clenched her fists. "It's safer if you don't know. For me or for you?" Again, no answer. The translator buzzed softly in Joran's hand. A mechanical voice whispered the translation of her earlier words. "He is kind. That makes him weak. I must leave before the night is over." Joran's eyes narrowed. She was planning to run. He stood up slowly. "You think kindness is weakness?" he asked. Cathara turned fast, shocked. "You understood?" "I'm not stupid," he said calmly. "And you're not helpless, so let's stop pretending." She stared at him, her chest rising and falling quickly. For the first time, she looked unsure. Suddenly, Joran took a few steps toward her. "You were waiting for me to sleep, weren't you? You were going to escape." "Yes," she said honestly. "But not to hurt you." "I was just running," he said, "but from what?" Cathara looked around the dark ruins as if someone might be listening. Then she walked close to him and whispered, "There is a reason they gave me to you. Not because they wanted to reward you, but because they wanted to erase me." "Erase you?" Joran frowned. "Why?" She hesitated. Then she touched the side of her neck and pressed hard. Joran stepped back in shock. A small silver circle appeared on her skin. It was a hidden implant. "A tracker," she said. "And not just a tracker. A signal. If I try to leave the planet, it will alert them. If someone removes it wrong, it explodes. And if I stay alive too long, they'll send someone to finish the job." Joran stepped forward, examining it closely. It was advanced tech, far beyond what the Virexan soldiers usually used. "Who wants you dead?" "My own family." The words hit hard. Cathara's voice broke for the first time. Was part of the royal bloodline. I refused to marry a powerful warlord who helped fund the war. They said I shamed them. They sold me as property so no one would ever believe my story. Now they want me to vanish. And you were just supposed to be the end of my name." Joran stood silent. For a long time, no. One spoke, then he said, "You should have told me sooner." "Why?" she said bitterly. "You think humans would protect a cursed alien princess?" He smiled faintly. "No. But I'm not most humans." For the first time, Cathara smiled. It was small, tired, but real. But the moment was cut short by a sharp beeping noise. Joran looked at his wrist device. Motion detected, he muttered. Cathara's face went pale. They found me. Lights appeared in the sky, small, fast, and red. We have to move, Joran said, already packing gear. Cathara looked at him. You don't have to run. This isn't your fight. Joran grabbed his rifle and looked her dead in the eyes. It is now. The tracker in her neck. The sky roared as two enemy drones zipped over the shattered outpost, their red lights scanning the ground below. Joran and Cathara hid behind a collapsed wall, holding their breath. The fire they had made earlier was out now, just smoke. They were no longer safe here. Cathara clutched her neck. The tracker under her skin was glowing faintly. It pulsed, once every few seconds, like a heartbeat. They're scanning for this, she whispered. Then we remove it, Joran said firmly. She looked at him with wide eyes. You don't understand. If you do it wrong, it explodes. Then we do it right, he replied. Joran's mind was racing. He had trained for war, sabotage, survival, but never for surgery on alien royalty. He checked his gear. Inside his medic pouch he had a field scanner, a neural cutter, and a stabilizer shot. It wasn't much, but it was something. We'll need to move, Joran said. If they find us standing still, we're dead. Together they slipped into the dark ruins. The night wind howled, pushing through broken buildings. Everything was quiet except the distant sound of metal wings in the sky. Joran led her through. Underground tunnels once used to move supplies, now they were full of shadows. After nearly an hour of silent travel, they reached a small medical bay buried beneath the old base. It was dusty but untouched. Perfect. Lie down, Joran said. I'll scan your neck. Cathara hesitated. I don't like needles. You fought off a warlord and survived betrayal by your own people. You'll be fine. She smirked a little and laid back. He activated the scanner. A small blue beam ran across her skin, mapping the implant beneath. It was deep, closer to her spine than he expected, designed to kill if disturbed. You sure you want to do this? Joran asked. If I don't, they'll find me, and you'll die too. Joran didn't reply. Instead, he injected her with the stabilizer. It would slow her heart and calm her nerves. Ready? He asked. She nodded. Using the neural cutter, he began slicing carefully, millimeter by millimeter. The device was hot, buzzing softly. Cathara's body twitched, but she held still. Sweat formed on Joran's forehead as he worked deeper. Then, he saw it. The implant was wrapped in glowing wires. One wrong move, and it would send a death pulse to her brain. Don't move, he whispered. Even to breathe. Cathara's eyes stayed open, staring at the ceiling. She didn't blink. Slowly, Joran reached into the pouch and took a tiny glass capsule. It contained a freezing agent used to temporarily shut down microchips. You'll feel a sting, he warned. Then he injected it directly into the implant. The device sizzled, glowed red, then turned black. Done, Joran whispered. He gently pulled the tracker from her neck. It was small, no larger than a seed, but powerful. He placed it into a lead container and shut it tight. How do you feel? He asked. Cathara blinked. Light. Like a part of me that didn't belong is gone. She sat up slowly, touching her neck. There was only a small scar now. She smiled, but their moment didn't last long. Boom! The wall exploded behind them, showering the room in fire and smoke. Joran grabbed Cathara and rolled behind a cabinet. A tall figure walked in through the smoke. He was dressed in black armor with glowing red marks. His face was hidden by a helmet, but his voice was cold. You should not have done that, the man said. Cathara's eyes widened. That's him. Who? Joran asked. Commander Drax. The one they sent to kill me. Drax raised a plasma gun and fired. Joran pulled Cathara behind a surgical table as the shot melted part of the wall. Stay low, Joran shouted, firing back. The bullets hit Drax's armor but bounced off. The man didn't flinch. "Give her to me," Drax said. "I'll make it painless." "Come and take her," Joran yelled. The room became a war zone. Fire burned along the walls. Cabinets flew. Metal crashed. Joran rolled, shooting with one hand while dragging Cathara with the other. He had to buy time. "Go," he shouted. "There's an exit hatch in the back." "What about you?" "I'll follow." Cathara ran, disappearing through the back. Joran faced Drax alone. He ducked as a plasma bolt missed his head by inches. His gun was nearly empty. Drax stepped forward, his voice cold. "You think you can protect her, human? You're just a soldier. She's a curse." "Maybe," Joran growled. "But she's my curse now." With a sudden move, Joran fired his last bullet, straight into the power cell on Drax's chest. Crack! A burst of energy threw Drax backward, smashing him into the wall. Joran didn't wait. He ran through the fire and jumped into the exit tunnel. Outside, Cathara waited beside an old hoverbike. "What took you so long?" she said, smiling. Joran climbed on. Just had to remind him humans don't give up easy. As the bike roared into the night, Cathara held on tight. For the first time, she wasn't just running. She was fighting. With him. The bounty hunter arrives. The stars above planet Virexa looked peaceful, but on the ground, it was anything but. Joran and Cathara raced across the desert plains on an old military hoverbike. It roared through broken canyons and sharp rock cliffs, leaving a trail of dust behind. They didn't speak. The only sound was the wind in their ears and the soft hum of the dying engine. Joran's hands were tight on the controls. Cathara held onto his back, eyes watching the skies. "They won't stop coming," she said softly. "Let them come," Joran replied. "We're not done fighting." But even he knew something worse was on the way. Miles above, a sleek black ship hovered just at the edge of the atmosphere. Silent. Deadly. Its name was written in sharp red letters on the side. Ghost Fang. Inside the ship stood a figure, taller than most humans. His armor was silver and bone white, etched with scars and alien symbols. One side of his face was metal. His eyes glowed red. His name was Voran, and he wasn't just a bounty hunter. He was the galaxy's most feared assassin. He was hired for one task: kill Cathara. Leave no witnesses. "Target moving across Zone Delta 7, the ship's computer spoke. Voran smiled. "This won't take long." Down below, Joran and Cathara stopped at an abandoned fuel station. It was falling apart, covered in sand and vines. Still, it was the only shelter for miles. Joran parked the bike behind the station and checked their surroundings. "We'll rest here," he said. "You shouldn't protect me," Cathara said, leaning against the wall. "They will kill you for it." Joran gave her a serious look. "I'd rather die doing what's right than live doing nothing." She stared at him for a long time, something warm building in her eyes. "You don't know what that means to me." He gave a tired smile. "Maybe you can tell me after this is all over," but suddenly, boom. The sky turned red as a missile hit the ground near them, throwing fire and dust into the air. Joran pulled Cathara behind him, raising his rifle. A figure stepped out of the smoke. Voran. He walked slowly like a predator. His voice was deep and cold. "You must be the foolish human," Voran said. "She's not yours. Hand her over and I'll give you a quick death." "You want her?" Joran said, aiming his weapon. "Come and get her." Voran didn't wait. In one blink he moved. Fast. Too fast. Joran fired, but Voran dodged every shot. He appeared in front of Joran and punched him straight into the metal wall. Joran hit the ground hard, blood on his face. Cathara screamed, trying to run, but Voran threw a shock disc at her legs. Electricity wrapped around her. She fell, struggling to move. "You were supposed to disappear," Voran said, walking toward her. "But you had to run. Now look where that got you." Cathara looked up at him with pain in her eyes. You were the one who killed my brothers." "They begged me to spare them," Voran said coldly. "I didn't. Just as he raised his blade to strike, Joran roared and attacked. He tackled Voran from behind, driving a knife into his side. Metal sparked, but Voran spun and threw Joran across the room again. "You are brave," Voran said, "but bravery cannot stop death." Joran coughed, bleeding. "Maybe not, but it can delay it." He pressed a small button on his wrist. Beep. The ground below Voran exploded. Joran had planted a mine earlier when he parked the bike. The floor shattered, throwing the bounty hunter into the air. Cathara used the moment to crawl to Joran. "Can you move?" she asked. "Barely," he said. "But enough." She helped him up, and together they stumbled out the back of the station and into a hidden tunnel system below the station, something Joran had spotted earlier on his map. They moved fast through the dark tunnel, but Voran's voice echoed behind them. "Run if you want," he called. "I enjoy the hunt." They ran deeper into the tunnels, lit only by the soft blue glow of Cathara's hands. She used her light ability to guide them, her breath heavy, her mind racing. "There's a transport station. 10 minutes from here," she said. "If we can get to it, there's a chance we can call for help. Then we move faster," Joran said, pushing himself despite the pain. But behind them the sound of heavy metal boots grew louder. Voran was not far. Deep inside the tunnels, Joran and Cathara reached an old lift that went up to the surface. It was rusty slow, but their only choice. As they rose upward, Joran loaded his last clip. Cathara looked at him with worry. "We can't win against him." "Maybe not," he said, "but we can try." Suddenly, bang! Voran jumped onto the lift from below, grabbing Joran and slamming him into the wall. "Goodbye, human," he growled, but Cathara raised her hand. Her body began to glow. Her eyes turned bright silver. Her hair floated in the air like it was alive. A shockwave burst from her body, blasting Voran off the lift. The light faded. Cathara fell to her knees. Joran held her. "What was that?" she whispered. "It's a royal defense skill. Forbidden to use." "You broke a law to save me?" he asked, smiling. "You broke a war to save me," she replied. The lift reached the surface. The sun was rising, but Voran was not gone. He would return, and next time, he'd bring hell with him. A princess in chains. The old transport station was barely working. Wires sparked, screens blinked, and the control panel groaned as Cathara pushed it to life using her glowing touch. Joran sat on a broken bench, wrapping a piece of cloth around his bleeding arm. He looked tired, bruised but alive. Outside, the twin suns of planet Virexa began to rise, bathing the wasteland in golden light. "We're not safe here for long," Cathara said, fingers moving fast over the controls. "But if I reroute the signal, I might be able to send a distress call to someone who still believes in me." Joran raised an eyebrow. "Someone like who? A friend?" She paused. "A rebel fleet. They were loyal to my family, before everything turned dark." "What if they think you're dead?" Cathara's eyes turned cold. "Then we give them proof I'm not." A few hours later, a small stealth ship answered the call. It landed quietly behind the station. Two cloaked figures stepped out, weapons drawn, but when they saw Cathara, they dropped to their knees. "Princess Cathara," one of them whispered. Joran's heart froze. "Princess." Cathara turned to him. "I wanted to tell you, but I feared you'd leave me." Joran was silent for a long time. He stared at her, this strange, beautiful girl he'd risked his life for. And now she was telling him she was royalty. He stood up, walking away from the others. Cathara followed. "You lied to me," he said. "I didn't lie," she replied. "I just waited. I wanted to be more than a title in your eyes." "You already were," Joran said quietly. She looked at him, but there was no time for soft moments. The cloaked rebel stepped forward. "Princess, we must leave now. Voran will return with backup." Cathara nodded. "Is the command ship still hidden in orbit?" "Yes," the rebel said. "We've kept it hidden in the shadow of Moon V3. Then take us there." Joran stepped forward. "You trust them?" "They were once my guards. They hid me before. They'll hide me again. They boarded the ship. In orbit, the hidden command ship floated in the moon's shadow. It was massive, gray, curved like a sword, with engines as long as city blocks. Inside, Cathara was greeted with bows and tears. Many thought she had died. Now, seeing her alive was like seeing hope again. Joran walked beside her, unsure of his place. In a private chamber, she faced the rebel council. Old generals, advisors, and war survivors stood in silence. "The people must know I'm alive," Cathara said. "But I cannot do it alone." "You were betrayed," one of the generals said. "By your own blood." Cathara nodded. "Yes, but I still carry the blood of the true royal line, and now I will take it back." They cheered, but only for a moment. An alarm blared. A red light flashed on the walls. Enemy vessel approaching. Joran ran to the command bridge. Varan's ship Ghostfang had found them. "How?" Cathara gasped. "He tracked the signal," Joran said. "He's smarter than we thought." Varan's voice came over the radio, calm and cold. "You can run to the stars, little princess, but I will cut you from the throne before you ever sit on it." A silence fell. Cathara turned to Joran. "We must strike first." "You mean, attack him?" "No," she said, eyes full of fire. "We attack the people who hired him, the royal court." "But they're protected by planetary shields," Joran replied. "Not if we use the royal seal." Cathara walked to a small hidden panel and pressed her hand against it. It opened to reveal a glowing disk, the royal seal of Virexa. Ancient, powerful. It gave access to any system her family once ruled. "If I plug this into the court system," she said, "I can open the gates. Let the rebels in. And take back my title." Joran stepped forward. "What do you need from me?" "I need you to get me inside." He nodded. "Then we plan an infiltration." That night, a stealth team led by Joran and Cathara landed near the royal capital. The city was huge, full of lights and towers. The royal palace stood like a mountain in the center, its walls covered in glowing shields. Using fake identities and old rebel routes, they reached the outer control towers. Joran hacked the gates while Cathara prepared the seal. But then, an ambush, a dozen soldiers surrounded them. Someone had betrayed the mission. "Drop your weapons," the captain yelled. Cathara looked at Joran. "Trust me?" he asked. "Always." He pressed a hidden detonator, blowing out the floor beneath them. Boom! They fell into a dark sewer channel beneath the palace. Wounded, coughing, but alive. "We're close," Cathara whispered. "Just one level below the throne room." Joran grinned. "Then let's give your people a show." Escape through the ice fields. The sewers beneath the royal palace were cold, dark, and filled with echoes. The smell of rust and ancient energy was everywhere. Cathara and Joran walked slowly, each step careful. Joran's side still bled from the earlier ambush, but he didn't complain. Above them, the royal court celebrated a false peace. Cathara's traitorous cousin, Lord Zevrik, now sat on the throne, calling himself ruler of Virexa. He had spread lies about Cathara's death, used her disappearance to gain power. But tonight she would show the galaxy the truth. They reached a secret lift, hidden behind old stone carvings. Cathara placed her hand on the scanner. The royal seal in her palm glowed, and the lift opened with a soft hiss. "Once we're up there," Joran said, "we'll only have minutes." "I only need seconds," Cathara replied. Inside the royal court, nobles in gold robes stood around the throne room, laughing and drinking. Lord Zevrik, tall and thin with cruel eyes, sat proudly on the throne. Next to him stood Vorin, the bounty hunter still alive, his armor scorched from the last battle but stronger than ever. "Our enemy is dead," Zevrik announced. "Our path is clear. The people will obey. The empire is mine." Just as he raised his cup, the ground shook. Boom! A side wall exploded open, and from the dust stepped Cathara and Joran. Gasps echoed through the hall. "Cathara?" one noble whispered. "It's a trick," Zevrik barked. She's dead. No, Cathara said, stepping forward, eyes glowing silver. I'm very much alive, and you're sitting on my throne. Voran raised his weapon instantly. Don't move, he growled. Jaren aimed his rifle. Go ahead, try me again. A tense silence fell. Then suddenly, chaos. Soldiers moved in from both sides. Jaren shot 2 in seconds. Cathara ran toward the throne, dodging lasers, using her light shield to deflect attacks. Her eyes met Zevrik's, full of fury. He pulled out a blade and slashed at her, but she caught it with bare hands, her royal power glowing through her skin. The blade melted in her grip. You betrayed our family, she said. You were weak, he spat. You cared too much about the lower class. You wanted peace. Peace is not weakness, she said, but fear is. With a shout, she unleashed a wave of energy. It knocked Zevrik to the ground and shattered the throne behind him. Voran lunged at Joran, tackling him into a wall. The two crashed into pillars, trading heavy blows. Joran dodged a plasma blade and slammed a knife into Voran's chest. But the hunter barely flinched. You should have died the first time, Voran hissed. Same to you, Joran growled, smashing a metal plate into his head. Finally, Cathara grabbed the royal seal from her belt and held it high. Broadcast. Now, she screamed. From above, hidden rebel ships connected to the palace systems, across the planet, and even in nearby systems, a live feed appeared. This is Princess Cathara, her voice echoed. I live, and I reclaim my place. The nobles began to kneel one by one. Even the soldiers lowered their weapons. Voran saw it and growled. This is not over. He threw a smoke bomb and vanished. Zevrik tried to run, but Cathara caught him. She didn't kill him. She let the people decide his fate. Jaren limped over to her. You did it. No, she said, touching his hand. We did it. But peace didn't last. Hours later, rebel scouts sent a warning. Voran wasn't gone. He had returned with a full mercenary army, faster ships, and stronger weapons, and they were headed for the palace. Cathara made a decision. We have to run, she said. Into the ice fields. Jaren frowned. The ice fields? No one survives there. That's why they won't follow us. They escaped through hidden tunnels below the palace. The tunnels led far away, to the forgotten lands covered in snow and frozen wind. Ancient alien machines stood buried in ice. Dead cities and broken towers lay across the land like bones of a lost time. The cold bit their skin. Their breath turned to mist. But Jaren kept going. So did Cathara. With each step, their bond grew stronger. They found shelter in a frozen cave. Inside, Jaren built a fire while Cathara used her powers to seal the entrance. They were safe. For now. But far away, Voran watched from a cliff, his red eyes glowing. Let them freeze, he said to his soldiers. We wait. We watch. And then we finish this. She chooses him before the galaxy. The cave was silent except for the soft crackle of fire. Outside, the ice winds howled through the frozen mountains. Jaren and Cathara sat close, wrapped in old thermal blankets. Their hands touched. No words were spoken for a while. They just listened to the wind and to each other's breath. Cathara stared into the fire. I never thought I would survive to see peace. You haven't, Joran said softly. Not yet. She looked at him, her silver eyes glowing gently in the firelight. But I'm not alone anymore. They both knew it. The moment of rest wouldn't last. Somewhere in the cold night, Voran waited. The hunter had chased them across deserts, cities, skies, and now into the land where even the planet's own people refused to live. But Cathara wasn't the same girl in chains anymore. And Jaren, he was more than just a soldier now. He was her shield, her sword, her heart. Deep in the mountains, Voran stood before a group of mercenaries. Their armor was dark, marked with bounty sigils and blood colors. Machines floated above them, armed with scanners and guns. They are in the ice caves, Voran said coldly. Trap the exits. Burn the caves if you must. Bring me the princess alive, the human dead. The army moved with silent purpose. This time, they would not fail. Back in the cave, Cathara finished sending a message from a hidden communicator. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were sharp. Help is coming, she told Joran. When? Before the stars shift. He nodded. That's not very exact. She smiled. Vyrexans don't measure time in minutes. We measure it in hope. Before Joran could respond, an explosion shook the cave. Snow fell from above. The fire died instantly. They're here, Joran said, grabbing his weapon. Then we fight. Cathara pulled her blade. A glowing staff passed to her from her royal ancestors. It lit up with soft blue fire. She looked like a queen of the old days, no longer a slave, no longer a girl running. Joran stood beside her, blood dried on his armor, rifle ready. No speeches? Just this, she said. Thank you for never treating me like property. Thank you for never treating me like a weapon. The enemy stormed in. Blasts of light tore through the cave. Voran's soldiers entered in groups, but Cathara and Joran moved like one. She deflected shots with her staff. He fired with deadly aim. They covered each other, never letting the other fall. Snow turned black, with burn marks. Smoke filled the air. Then came Voran. He entered slowly, pushing past his own dead soldiers. His helmet cracked, half his face exposed, burned, angry, and full of hate. You still think you can win? He growled. You're outnumbered, surrounded, forgotten. Maybe, Cathara said, stepping forward, staff raised. But I have something you don't. Voran laughed. What's that? Someone who would die for me, she said. And then she struck. The final battle began. Cathara and Voran clashed like lightning and steel. He was fast, brutal. She was light and fire. Energy burst from their strikes, lighting up the cave. Like a storm, Joran tried to help, but Voran threw him aside. Cathara screamed as Joran hit the wall. He's nothing, Voran shouted. Just a human. He's more than you'll ever be, she said. Her power exploded. A pulse of blue light shot through Voran's chest, cracking his armor. He stumbled. She raised her staff, ready to end him, but Joran called, out. Stop! She froze. Don't be like them, he said. Don't kill him. Not with hate. Cathara looked down at Voran, breathing hard. Then slowly, she lowered the staff. You'll face trial, she said. In front of the people you hurt, Voran spat blood. They'll never believe you're the true queen. At that moment, the cave ceiling opened. A giant ship hovered above them. The rebel fleet had arrived. Light poured down from the sky. Voices echoed from the ship. Princess Cathara, is it you? She looked up. Yes, she answered. I am Cathara, daughter of the old empire, and this man beside me is Joran, a human, a soldier, and now, my chosen consort. Gasps echoed across the fleet's open channels. Some cheered, some hesitated. Cathara raised the royal seal in her hand and said, He protected your future queen. He bled for her, fought for her, never claimed her, never owned her. He stood beside me when all others ran. Then she turned to Joran. You never asked for a title, but now I offer you one. He blinked. What title? She smiled. King, if you'll have it. Joran stared at her, then smiled back. I'll take it. But only if you promise to still let me cook. The rebels laughed. The war was over, but something new was beginning. Epilogue. Weeks later, Joran stood on a high balcony of the palace. Cathara beside him, now wearing her royal armor. Beautiful, proud and strong. Below, the people cheered, and in the stars above, the galaxy watched. A human and an alien, a soldier and a princess, no longer chained by war, but bonded by choice.